Hello and welcome to my easy to understand guide to Albert Bandura's media effects theory. So Albert Bandura was a researcher who decided to set up an experiment where he placed children in a room with an adult and gave them some toys, in particular a toy called a Bobo doll. And the adult was told by Bandura to play with the toy in quite a rough manner. So to hit it, to slam it onto the ground, to punch it. And then the adult would leave the room and the cameras would carry on rolling and the children would be watched to see what they would do. And in almost every case, the children copied the adult's behaviour and also played with the doll in a very rough way, punching it, hitting it, etc. Now, Bandura used this as research to try and prove that watching violent things made children violent. And essentially, that's his theory, the idea that if we watch media products, we will learn our behaviour from them. And in particular, we will copy or model our behaviour on what we see, and especially violent or aggressive behaviour. There are some issues with this theory that you need to be aware of. For a start, conducting an experiment in a laboratory or in a test condition, it's never really the same as saying that this is how it would happen in real life. When children are brought into a research facility and there's a camera and there's adults telling them to play with a toy, it's highly likely that the children are going to want to please the adults but in some way, and they're going to think, well, what do they want me to do with this toy? And so perhaps the behaviour that Bandura saw in his experiments was more just the children doing what they thought the adults wanted them to do rather than what they actually wanted to do themselves. Another issue with this theory is that dolls aren't people. It sounds silly, but I'm sure at some point in our lives we have all played with a doll or an action figure or a cuddly toy, and perhaps we've played quite roughly with it. We've thrown it around, we've stamped on it, we've jumped off a table on top of it, we've play fought with toys with our friends, and that's what children do. Whether they would do that to a real person is a completely different matter. So can we really watch children be violent with a toy and say definitively that that means they're going to be violent towards real people? So in particular with this theory, you need to be thinking about any media text where people may copy the behaviour or copy the things that happen in that product. So for example, in Assassin's Creed as a video game, do you think that players, particularly younger players, are going to be copying any of the behaviours that they see within the video game? What about films? If you are seeing films like Straight Outta Compton, are viewers going to be tempted to use the language that they see in the films? Are they going to be tempted to be more violent, to use weapons, because they're seeing the stars in the films do those things? Do you think younger viewers are going to copy what they see on the screen? And if so, perhaps you could say that you agree with Bandura's theory.